What if I told you that the way a man views sex with you has nothing to do with the act itself and everything to do with how he feels about you before it even happens? See, most people think sex creates connection, but for men, it doesn't create anything. It reveals everything. And if you don't understand how that works, you could end up confusing chemistry for commitment and attention for intent. Let's talk about what's really going on in his mind when it comes to sex, and why understanding this could change the way you date forever. When it comes to understanding how men view sex, the first thing we need to get very clear on is this. Not all men think about sex in the same way. That's one of the biggest misconceptions people carry. There's a tendency to lump all men into one category, as if they're a monolith, all wired the same, all approaching intimacy with the same goals and mindset. But that's not true. In reality, the way a man experiences sex depends heavily on who he is emotionally, what phase of life he's in, his past experiences, his level of maturity, and what he wants from you. Some men experience sex as a deep form of connection. For them, it's a powerful way to feel bonded to someone they care about. These are the men who already feel emotionally connected and use the physical experience to intensify that bond. To them, sex is not just about bodies, it's about closeness, trust, and emotional vulnerability. When they're with someone they're truly into, the experience becomes a way to express love and appreciation. They don't just want the physical, they want the whole person. And for them, sex with you means something that goes far beyond the act itself. It's a continuation of how they already feel about you. On the flip side, some men experience sex as a way to cope. Maybe they're feeling insecure, lonely, or lost. For them, sex becomes a form of self-medication, a quick hit of validation. In these cases, the act isn't about you at all. It's about what it does for them. It's not necessarily malicious. It's often unconscious. They're not trying to use you intentionally. They're trying to soothe something inside themselves, but the result is the same. Once the moment is over, they don't feel closer to you. In fact, they might even feel more distant. And you're left wondering why. What felt intimate to you seems so empty for him afterward. Then there are men who see sex purely as a physical experience. It's not emotional. It's not spiritual. It's not about connection. It's just something they enjoy, like going to the gym or watching a movie. These men often compartmentalize. They can enjoy being with you physically and still not have any desire for something deeper. And again, this has more to do with where they are mentally than who you are. You could be amazing, you could be girlfriend material, but if they're not in a space where they want emotional connection, it doesn't matter. They're not engaging with you from that place. What's important here is understanding that how a man views sex with you is less about the sex itself and more about the meaning he's already assigned to the relationship. If he already respects you, values you, and sees you as someone special, sex becomes an extension of that. But if he hasn't built that emotional foundation or doesn't want to, then sex won't build that bridge. It might feel good in the moment, but it won't create the connection you're hoping for. So when people say men see sex differently, that's only half the story. The full truth is, different men see sex differently, and your experience with sex will reflect the kind of man you're dealing with. That's why it's so important not to assume that just because you shared something physical, you're both now emotionally on the same page. You have to look at the context, the behavior before and after, the consistency, the emotional availability, because it's not the act that tells you how he feels. It's who he is before the act ever happens. Sex doesn't automatically equal emotional connection for men, and understanding this difference is critical if you want to avoid heartbreak or misreading someone's intentions. For many women, sex often leads to a stronger emotional bond. It's not just about the physical sensations, it's about closeness, vulnerability, and a deep sense of sharing something intimate. There's a release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone that can intensify feelings of affection and attachment. So naturally, it can feel confusing, even painful, when the same experience doesn't seem to have the same emotional impact on a man. But here's what most people don't talk about. Many men are biologically and emotionally wired to separate sex from emotional attachment. It's not always a conscious decision, and it's not necessarily a reflection of how cold or unfeeling a man is. It's simply a difference in how men and women often process intimacy. For some men, sex is compartmentalized. They can enjoy it, pursue it, even crave it, without necessarily wanting anything deeper with the person they're sharing it with. They can sleep with someone they like without loving them, and sometimes even without respecting them. That sounds harsh, but it's reality. And unless you understand that difference, you can fall into the trap of giving your body to someone who was never emotionally available in the first place. Women often confuse the physical closeness of sex with emotional closeness. If the night feels passionate, if he's saying all the right things, if he's looking into your eyes and touching you gently, it can feel like love. It can feel like you're sharing something real. But for him, it might not be that deep. It might just be about satisfying a physical desire. And when the moment is over, he might go back to being distant, unclear, or emotionally unavailable. That leaves you questioning what went wrong, when in truth nothing went wrong, he just wasn't emotionally connected to begin with. This disconnect happens because women often assume that physical intimacy is a natural step forward in emotional connection. But for many men, the two don't always go hand in hand. Some men can have sex without letting you into their heart. And if they were emotionally detached before sex, they'll likely remain that way after. In fact, sex can sometimes make a man pull away even faster, not because you did something wrong, but because he got what he wanted and now he's emotionally done. That's why it's dangerous to use sex as a way to measure how much someone cares. It's not a reliable indicator. The hard truth is that a man can be fully present with you in bed and yet completely absent from you emotionally. He can say sweet things in the heat of a moment, make you feel wanted, even adored, but once the physical need is met, he may feel no obligation to continue nurturing anything deeper. That's why you need to pay attention to what happens outside the bedroom. His consistency, how he treats you in non-sexual moments, whether he genuinely wants to know you, support you, and build something meaningful. That's where real emotional connection is revealed. Sex can be beautiful, powerful, and deeply bonding, but only when it's shared between two people who are emotionally aligned. If you're using it to create closeness while he's using it for pleasure or escape, you're not on the same page. That doesn't make him a bad person, and it doesn't make you naive. It just means you're playing two different games, and it's time to recognize the rules. Emotional connection doesn't begin in the bedroom. It's revealed long before you ever get there. How a man feels before sex shapes what it means to him afterward. This idea is simple, but it's often missed in real-life situations, especially when emotions and expectations get involved. A lot of people believe that sex creates connection. They think that if they sleep with someone, it will bring the person closer or even unlock deeper feelings. But for many men, sex doesn't change how they feel about someone. It simply amplifies what was already there. That means if he was emotionally invested before, sex might deepen his interest, but if he wasn't, then sex won't suddenly give him feelings he never had in the first place. Men don't wake up emotionally attached just because they had sex. It's not like a switch flips. Instead, sex tends to reflect the emotional groundwork that already existed. If a man has spent time getting to know you, if he's shown genuine care, made consistent effort, and built an emotional connection, then sex becomes part of something bigger. It's a layer on top of an already forming bond. He'll likely continue to show up for you afterward because the connection was never about the physical, it was emotional first. In this case, sex adds value to a connection that was already real. But when that emotional foundation isn't there, everything changes. If a man wasn't interested in you in a meaningful way before sex, if he was inconsistent, distant, or only reached out when he wanted something, then it's unlikely that sleeping together will shift anything. In fact, it can sometimes make things feel worse. You might notice that he pulls back, texts less, or becomes vague. That confuses people. They wonder why someone who seemed so into them during the night becomes so unavailable the next day, but the truth is, he was never truly connected emotionally to begin with. For him, sex might have been the goal, not the beginning. And once that goal is reached, there's nothing left pulling him forward. That's why it's so important to observe a man's behavior before anything physical happens. Look at how he talks to you, whether he's present, whether he asks meaningful questions, whether he follows through on what he says. These are the clues that tell you how he feels. If he's only reaching out late at night, if he doesn't seem interested in your life, if he doesn't make real plans, those are signs that his interest is surface level. And if you're hoping that sex will create something deeper, you're placing hope in the wrong place. Sex doesn't fix emotional gaps, it highlights them. When two people are already connected, sex is something that enhances the closeness. But when there's emotional emptiness, sex exposes it. That's why you might feel more attached after sleeping with someone while he feels more distant. You're connecting through the act. He's checking out after it. Not because he's a villain, but because he wasn't invested emotionally before it happened. What you do before sex, how you talk, how you bond, how you build trust, shapes what sex means. It's not about being strategic or manipulative. It's about recognizing patterns. It's about knowing that the emotional investment has to be there first, or else the physical experience will feel hollow afterward. This is why rushing into intimacy often leads to confusion. If the connection wasn't solid before, it won't magically become solid afterward. The foundation matters. If it's strong, sex becomes a natural step forward. If it's shaky or non-existent, sex can actually be the moment where everything begins to fall apart. The way you carry yourself changes how men view sex with you. That's not about playing hard to get or putting on an act. It's about the energy you give off, the way you value yourself, and the boundaries you set. Men are very aware of a woman's self-perception, even if they don't always articulate it. They may not consciously think she respects herself, but they feel it. And that feeling directly influences how they interpret the experience of being intimate with you. When a woman walks into a relationship, or even just a conversation, with a deep sense of her own worth, everything shifts. She's not afraid to say no. She's not afraid to walk away. She's not giving her time, attention, or body to someone who hasn't earned it. That kind of self-possession is magnetic. It tells a man without a single word that she values herself too much to settle for crumbs. And because of that, men approach her differently. They're more careful with her. They're more intentional. They recognize that she's not someone they can just hook up with and disappear on the next day without consequence. Contrast that with a woman who is seeking validation. If she's using sex as a way to feel wanted, to keep someone around, or to prove her value, a man picks up on that too. She might not even realize she's doing it. She might think she's being open or easygoing or cool, but if she's not rooted in her own sense of self, it shows. And when a man senses that someone's looking to him to feel whole, he treats her accordingly. Not necessarily in a cruel way, but in a way that lacks depth. He doesn't feel the need to respect her boundaries because she's not showing him any. He doesn't feel pressure to commit because she's acting like she's already emotionally all in, whether he's earned that or not. It's not about punishing someone by withholding sex. It's about communicating your standards through your actions. When you carry yourself with confidence, when you're clear about your boundaries, when you don't rush into intimacy just to hold on to someone's attention, that sends a strong message. You're saying, I'm not here to entertain, I'm here to connect. I'm not here for a moment, I'm here for something meaningful. That kind of energy doesn't scare away the right men, it attracts them. Men also pay attention to whether you respect your own time. If you cancel plans for him Drop everything just to answer his texts, or allow him to drift in and out of your life with no explanation. He learns that he can show up on his terms. But if you hold your ground, if you expect consistency, if you don't tolerate mixed signals, if you choose yourself first, he sees you as someone of value. And when a man sees you that way, sex with you isn't casual. It's meaningful, not because the act itself changes, but because your energy surrounding it demands more from him. This isn't about controlling men or manipulating their behavior. It's about understanding the power of self-respect. Men may chase a fantasy, but they stay for substance. When they sense that you know who you are, when you're not easily swayed by attention or charm, they feel that, they respond to that. And even if they walked in thinking this was just a casual situation, they start to think differently. Your presence makes them reevaluate, your energy shifts their mindset. That's what happens when you carry yourself like someone who knows her worth. Men don't just view sex as a moment, they start to see you as someone who changes what that moment even means. Sex can either deepen a man's feelings or reveal his lack of them. This is one of the most misunderstood dynamics in dating and relationships. So many people assume that sex is always a step forward, a sign of progress, or a sign that things are getting more serious. But what actually happens after sex isn't always what we expect. And that's because sex doesn't change how a man feels about you, it just makes those feelings more obvious. Whatever emotions were already beneath the surface get magnified. If a man already cares about you, if he's emotionally present, and he's been genuinely getting to know you, sex can become a moment of deeper connection. He may feel closer to you, more bonded, more protective. The emotional groundwork was already there, and the intimacy just adds another layer. In this case, the act isn't just physical, it's reinforcing something real. He's not just sleeping with you, he's opening up to you. He wants to be near you afterward. He wants to keep the connection alive. You'll notice it in how he treats you in the days that follow. There's no confusion, no backtracking, no emotional withdrawal. Instead, he'll be more consistent, more available, and more expressive. That's when you know that sex deepened something that already existed. But if a man wasn't truly connected before, sex doesn't bring him closer, it exposes the gap. Suddenly, everything feels different. He might become distant, less responsive, or vague about what he wants. You're left wondering what changed, when in reality, nothing changed. What you're seeing is the truth finally revealing itself. Sex didn't push him away. It just removed the illusion. Before intimacy, there might have been sweet talk, flirtation, excitement. He might have seemed interested, but in reality he was showing up for the chase or the moment, not for the long haul. Once the moment is over, there's nothing anchoring him to stay, because nothing was built emotionally to begin with. This is why so many women feel blindsided after sex. They thought it was a step toward closeness, but instead it turned into distance. That's not because they did something wrong. It's because sex pulled back the curtain. It showed them the emotional truth that was already there. And yes, that hurts, because it's easy to feel used or misled, but in reality, it's not that sex caused the disconnect, it simply revealed it. The emotional aftermath of sex is a powerful mirror. If a man is into you for the right reasons, that mirror reflects depth, warmth, and connection. If he's not, it shows a lack of care, presence, or real intention. You can't fake that. You can't manufacture it with words or actions. It's either there or it isn't. Sex just makes it undeniable. That's why it's so important to know what you're building before you sleep with someone. Not from a place of fear or control, but from clarity. What kind of connection do you have when the clothes are still on? How does he show up in your life? Is he consistent? Does he follow through? Does he care about your feelings? Or is he hot and cold, only affectionate when it serves him? These questions matter because once you become physically involved, the emotional truth becomes much harder to ignore. Sex can't create something that doesn't exist, but it can shine a bright light on what does. If there's love, you'll feel more of it. If there's emptiness, you'll feel that too. And once you understand that, you stop using sex as a tool for closeness and start seeing it as a reflection of what's already there. If a man isn't emotionally invested, sex won't make him stay. That's a truth a lot of people learn the hard way. We live in a world that often blurs the lines between physical intimacy and emotional commitment. And because of that, many women are left wondering why someone they slept with suddenly pulled away, lost interest, or stopped putting in effort. The truth is, if a man wasn't already connected to you on a deeper level, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, then sex won't suddenly make him want to build something real with you. The desire to stay has to be there long before anything physical happens. For some women, sex feels like a bonding moment. It's emotional. It creates a sense of closeness. And because of that, they expect that the man will feel the same. But for many men, sex is not inherently a commitment. It's an experience. It's physical. It's a moment they can enjoy without attaching long-term meaning to it. If they weren't serious before, they likely won't become serious after. And if they were unsure about the relationship, sex won't magically tip the scale toward devotion. In fact, it can have the opposite effect. Once the physical curiosity is satisfied, their motivation to continue engaging might vanish. It's not that men are heartless or shallow. It's that emotional investment doesn't come from chemistry alone. It comes from connection, time, effort, shared values, and a genuine desire to build something. If a man hasn't done any of that work, if he hasn't shown up for you in real ways, if he hasn't gotten to know your heart, if he hasn't opened up about his own, then sex becomes a transaction, not a transformation. It may feel intimate in the moment, but afterward, if there's no foundation, there's no reason for him to stay emotionally plugged in. Many people assume that because a man is physically attracted to them, he must want something deeper. But attraction is not the same as commitment. It's not even the same as interest. A man can be attracted to you, desire you, chase you, and still have zero intention of building a future with you. And that's where a lot of confusion happens. The attention feels good, the chemistry is exciting, the compliments seem sincere. But unless his actions show that he's emotionally present, sex won't create something that wasn't already there. In fact, it may even fast-treat the ending. Once the anticipation is gone, he may feel no reason to continue the pursuit. This is why you have to watch what a man does before anything physical ever happens. Does he listen? Does he ask questions about your life? Does he remember the little things? Does he show consistency, not just when it's convenient, but when it matters? If those things aren't in place, then no matter how incredible the chemistry is, sex won't be enough to hold him. Emotional investment is what keeps someone showing up, not desire alone. When a man is emotionally invested, sex doesn't become a finish line, it becomes a milestone. It's part of a growing connection, not the reason for it. He doesn't just want the experience, he wants you. He's there after the high fades. He's there when things get real. That's the difference. So if you're hoping that physical closeness will lead to emotional closeness, pause and ask, is he already here with me? Has he shown that he values me without needing anything in return? Because if the answer is no, then sex won't change his mind, it will just confirm where he already stands. So here's the truth most people won't say out loud. Sex by itself doesn't build emotional connection, and it doesn't guarantee anything lasting. For men, the meaning of sex is shaped entirely by how they felt before it happened, whether they were emotionally invested, whether they saw you as someone with depth, value, and substance. If that foundation isn't there, sex won't create it. It won't make him stay, commit, or suddenly see you differently. It will only reveal what was already true about his intentions. But this isn't about fear or playing games. It's about understanding your own power. You get to choose what sex means in your life. You get to protect your heart by slowing things down and watching how a man shows up for you, not just in the moment, but over time. Is he consistent? Does he respect your boundaries? Does he care about who you are, not just what he can get from you? When you carry yourself with self-worth, when you don't use sex as a shortcut to connection, you begin to see clearly. You stop being distracted by charm or chemistry and start noticing character. And when a man recognizes that he can't win you over just by creating physical intimacy, he either rises to meet you where you are or reveals that he was never serious to begin with. Either way, you win, because you're not chasing love through sex. You're allowing real connection to find you through clarity, boundaries, and self-respect. And that's when sex becomes what it was always meant to be, a meaningful extension of something real, not a gamble for something more.